Are you freaking kidding me, Eric? My voice trembled. Not from fear, but from a rage so raw it felt like my chest might split open. You're moving your parents into my house without even asking me? He didn't flinch. My husband of 6 years sat at the kitchen table, eyes glued to his laptop, that smug half-smile I'd grown to hate plastered on his face. Claire, relax. It's temporary. You're blowing this way out of proportion. Temporary? My heart slammed against my ribs, a drumbeat of disbelief and fury. I stared at him, my hands shaking as I gripped the counter. This isn't just some random house, Eric. This is my house. My grandparents left it to me. It's been in my family for 3 generations. It's the one place I've always felt safe. He shrugged, like I'd complained about a late delivery. Let's be real, Claire. You can't stop it, so why fight? For a second, I faltered. Was I overreacting? Was I too sensitive, like they'd always said? Eric with his eye rolls, Sylvia with her poor dear sighs? But then I looked at Liam, stacking his blocks in the corner, his little smile lighting up the room, his innocent joy untouched by this mess. And I knew. This wasn't in my head. This was real. And it was wrong. That was the moment something inside me snapped. My fists clenched, nails biting into my palms until I felt the sting. How dare he? How dare he treat me like I was nothing, like my voice didn't matter in the one space that was supposed to be mine. You do remember the deeds in my name, right? I said, my voice low and sharp, cutting through the air like a blade. You don't get to make unilateral decisions and act like I'm just along for the ride. He finally looked up, just for a second, a flicker of uncertainty crossing his face before that damn smirk crawled back. You're being dramatic, he muttered, turning back to his screen. I wanted to scream. I wanted to grab his precious laptop and smash it against the wall. I wanted to shake him until he saw me, really saw me for the first time in years. But instead, I stood there, rooted to the spot, my breath shallow and hot. This wasn't just about his parents moving in. This was about him deciding I didn't count. And it wasn't the first time. Sylvia, his mother, had been undermining me since the day we met. Snide remarks about my small-town upbringing, my messy kitchen, my unambitious job at my parents' coffee shop. Harold, his dad, barely spoke to me, his silence a constant judgment, like I'd somehow conned his golden boy into marrying me. And now they were coming here? Into my sanctuary? Without so much as a heads up? Eric didn't ask. He informed, like I was supposed to nod and play the good little wife. Not this time. I glanced at Liam again, now giggling as his block tower wobbled. Mommy, look, he called, holding up a block. It's a castle. I forced a smile. It's perfect, buddy. But inside, I was anything but perfect. I was a volcano, ready to erupt. The doorbell rang the next morning, sharp and final, like the crack of a judge's gavel. My stomach twisted into knots as I peeked through the window. There they were. Sylvia stood on the porch, spine straight, lips pursed into a thin line, her eyes already scanning the exterior of my house like she was appraising a fixer-upper she'd soon own. Harold shuffled behind her, lugging 2 overstuffed suitcases, his usual scowl etched deeper than ever. They didn't even bother knocking twice, just pushed past me when I opened the door. Claire, Sylvia said, her voice clipped as she brushed by, her overpowering floral perfume drowning out the soft vanilla scent I kept in the house. Harold didn't say a word, just dropped the bags in the middle of my living room with a grunt and shuffled toward the couch. Just like that, they were in. No hello. No, thanks for letting us stay. No acknowledgement that this was my space. By lunchtime, Sylvia had taken over. She stormed into my kitchen like a general claiming enemy territory, yanking open cabinets and rearranging everything. My coffee mugs, neatly stacked by size, were shoved into a chaotic pile. My spice jars, labeled in my own handwriting, were dumped into a drawer, jumbled together like trash. She stepped back, hands on her hips, and smirked. This setup was a disaster. You'll thank me later. I bit the inside of my cheek until I tasted blood. I liked it how it was, I said, my voice tight. She laughed, a sharp, patronizing sound that made my skin crawl. Oh, honey, you'll learn efficiency one day. I'm doing you a favor. A favor? She was erasing me, one cabinet at a time. The next morning, I found her in Liam's nursery. She'd pulled out his dresser drawers and was refolding his tiny shirts, her lips pursed in disapproval. This was a mess, she said, not even looking at me. Honestly, Claire, it's a miracle this boy sleeps at all with this chaos. Get out of his room, I snapped, my hands trembling at my sides. She glanced over her shoulder, one eyebrow arched. Don't be so sensitive, sweetheart. I'm just helping. You should be grateful. Grateful? She was rewriting my life with surgical precision, and I was supposed to thank her? Like I was the hired help in my own damn house? Evenings were a nightmare. Sylvia perched at the dinner table, picking apart everything I did. Liam shouldn't have mac and cheese again. Too much sugar, she'd say, her tone dripping with superiority. A real mother would know that. Harold just nodded along, chewing his food like a silent co-conspirator. And Eric? He sat there, sipping his wine, staring at the wall, refusing to meet my eyes. By day 3, my sanctuary was unrecognizable. My family photos had been shifted to better spots. My cinnamon candles were replaced with her cloying lavender ones. Liam came running to me, confused. Mommy, where's my truck? Sylvia probably organized it, I muttered, digging through a box she'd stuffed under the stairs. That night, I locked myself in the bathroom, the only room they hadn't touched, and sank to the floor. Tears streamed down my face, hot and silent. This wasn't just an invasion. It was a coup, a deliberate takeover. And Eric had opened the gates like a traitor inside my walls. But as I stared at my reflection in the mirror, red-eyed, exhausted, furious, something shifted. I wasn't going to let them win. Not like this. I couldn't sleep that night. Sylvia's voice looped in my head. Every dig, every helpful suggestion. Eric's silence was a deafening betrayal. I lay there, gripping the sheets, listening to Harold snoring down the hall and the faint creak of the old house settling. My house. My house. I tried. God, I really tried. I'd made dinner the night before, forcing a smile as Sylvia picked at my chicken and said it was dry. I'd sat Eric down 2 days ago, my voice soft, asking if we could set some boundaries, just a few rules to keep the peace. All I got was silence, or worse, that look he gave me, the one that said I was being difficult, that I was the problem. So I stopped asking and started watching. Then Liam's baby monitor flickered on the nightstand, his soft breathing cutting through the chaos in my mind. I sat up, slow and deliberate, wrapping a blanket around my shoulders. For the first time in days, I didn't feel helpless. I felt awake. They'd pushed me too far. And I'd let them, swallowing every insult, every violation, all to keep the peace. But peace wasn't worth my sanity. The next morning, I fought back, small but fierce. Sylvia had stuck another one of her passive-aggressive notes on the fridge. Claire, buy real butter, not that fake stuff. I ripped it off, grabbed a marker, and scrawled across it in bold, black letters. Sylvia, this is MY Kitchen. Back off. Then I taped it right onto her precious lavender candle, front and center on the counter. She found it at breakfast, her face twisting like she'd bitten into a lemon. What's this supposed to mean? She demanded, holding up the note. Exactly what it says, I replied, sipping my coffee, my voice calm but steel-edged. My house, my rules. She huffed, her cheeks flushing red. Well, I was only trying to help. I cut in. You've helped enough. Keep your hands off my stuff. Eric shifted uncomfortably in his chair, glancing between us. Claire, maybe tone it down? No, I said, locking eyes with him. You don't get to play peacemaker now. Sylvia stormed off, muttering about ungrateful brats, but she didn't touch the kitchen again that day. Eric stayed quiet, his jaw tight. It wasn't a full victory, but it was a crack in their armor, and it felt damn good. Later, I called my brother, Daniel, pacing the backyard while Liam napped. Claire? What's up? He answered, his voice groggy but sharp. I'm losing it, I admitted, my throat tight. They've taken over my life. I don't even know who I am anymore. There was a pause. Then his voice came through, steady and fierce. You're Claire freaking Thompson. The toughest person I know. You've just forgotten. Don't let them steamroll you. Take it back. His words hit like a jolt of caffeine. I hung up, my mind racing. That afternoon, I started documenting everything. Every time Sylvia overstepped, every snide remark, every moment Eric looked the other way. I scribbled it all in a notebook, hiding it under my mattress. Not for anyone else, just for me. To see how real it was. To fuel the fire growing inside. Each word I wrote chipped away at my fear. I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was gearing up for a fight. I waited until the perfect moment. Sylvia perched on the couch like she owned it, flipping through a magazine. Eric slouched beside her, thumbing his phone like nothing was wrong. Harold was napping upstairs, his snores rumbling through the ceiling. I stepped into the room, my heart pounding but my spine straight. We need to talk, I said, loud enough to make both their heads snap up. Eric blinked, confused. About what? You know exactly what. I shot back, my voice steady. Then I turned to Sylvia. You've turned my home into your personal playground. Rearranging my kitchen, rifling through Liam's room, criticizing how I raise my son, acting like I'm some clueless kid while Eric sits there and watches. That ends now. Sylvia scoffed, crossing her arms. Oh, Claire, don't be so dramatic. We're family. You're just too sensitive to handle real help. Family respects boundaries, I snapped, stepping closer. You've stomped over every single one. You don't get to waltz in here and play dictator. And you, I whirled on Eric. You've let your mother tear me apart while you hide behind your damn screen. Eric stood, his face tight. They're my parents, Claire. What do you expect me to do? Kick them out on the street? I expect you to act like my husband, I said, my voice rising. They're guests in my home, and they've overstayed their welcome. Either they go or I do, and I'm taking Liam with me. Silence dropped like a bomb. Sylvia's jaw fell, her composure cracking for the first time. You wouldn't dare, she hissed, her eyes narrowing. I met her gaze, unflinching. Watch me. Eric opened his mouth, but no words came. For once, he looked rattled, like he finally realized I wasn't bluffing. Maybe he'd always assumed I'd cave, keep the peace, let him coast. But that Claire was gone, buried under months of resentment and years of being ignored. I turned on my heel, adrenaline surging through me, and walked out of the room. My hand shook, my breath came fast, but I didn't look back. I'd drawn the line. The ball was in their court now, and I was ready for whatever came next. They left the next day. Sylvia muttered about ungrateful children as she packed, her lips pursed, so tight I thought they'd disappear. Harold hauled their bags to the car without a word, his silence as heavy as ever. Eric barely spoke, just mumbled something about needing space and a business trip to clear his head. Fine, I said, my voice flat. Go. I watched him drive off, then turned back to the house. It was mine again. I tore Sylvia's notes off the fridge, lit my cinnamon candles, and put Liam's toys back where they belonged. He ran up, wrapping his arms around my legs. No more mean grandma? Nope, I said, kneeling to kiss his forehead. Just us, buddy. He grinned, then darted off to build another block tower. For the first time in weeks, I breathed easy. But it didn't last. 3 days later, I was wiping down the kitchen counter when I noticed Eric's laptop, still open from before he left. The screen glowed with an email thread, the subject line glaring at me. Miss you. Last night was everything. My stomach dropped. My fingers hovered over the trackpad, trembling. I shouldn't have looked, but I did. I clicked, and my world shattered. It wasn't one email. It was months of them. Her name was Vanessa. Flirty messages. Hotel receipts. Photos of them laughing. Arms around each other. Plans made while I was here, fighting his parents, raising our son, begging him to care. One message hit like a punch. Your mom's keeping Claire busy. Perfect timing. Sylvia knew. She wasn't just a control freak. She'd been his accomplice, distracting me, wearing me down, while he screwed around behind my back. I backed away from the laptop, my hands cold, my throat dry. This wasn't just betrayal. It was a calculated gutting of everything I'd held onto. But I didn't cry. Not this time. I grabbed my phone and called a lawyer. His name's Eric, I said, my voice shaking but firm. He's cheating. His parents terrorized me in my own home. I want a divorce, and I want full custody of my son. The woman on the other end didn't hesitate. We've got this. Let's get to work. I hung up, staring at the laptop. The fire inside me wasn't just burning now, it was a damn inferno. I moved fast. First, I sold the house, my house, now a ghost of broken promises. The realtor didn't blink when I told her why. Good riddance, she said, and I signed the papers without a second thought. Next, I packed what mattered, Liam's toys, my clothes, a few photos of my grandparents, and found a rental near my parents' coffee shop. It was small, cozy, with a backyard where Liam could play. We moved in a week later, and he ran around, giggling, claiming his room. Eric came back from his trip 2 days after that, suitcase in hand, arrogance still in his eyes. He stopped short when he saw the living room, bare walls, empty shelves, Liam's toys gone. What the hell's going on? He demanded, his voice more annoyed than alarmed. I sold the house, I said, stepping out of the kitchen, my arms crossed. You what? My name's on the deed, I reminded him, my tone ice cold. And I'm done living with your lies haunting every corner. He scoffed, trying to keep the upper hand. You can't just. Yes, I can. I cut in, handing him an envelope. Divorce papers. Filed yesterday. I know about Vanessa. I know Sylvia helped you hide it. You're done here. The color drained from his face. Claire, it wasn't serious. We were just. Don't, I snapped. You had months to come clean. You chose to lie. You chose her. And while I was drowning under your mother's crap, you were off playing house. You don't get to minimize this. He stared at the envelope, his hand shaking. We can fix this. No, I said, stepping closer. You lost that chance. I'm asking for full custody, and with your affair and your parents' chaos, I'll win. Get out. He didn't move for a long moment, then turned and walked out. No fight, no words, just the weight of his consequences dragging behind him. The divorce flew through. I got custody. Eric's infidelity and Sylvia's documented overreach left no room for debate. His reputation tanked. Friends who'd once praised him turned away. A mini-win came at the coffee shop. I took it over from my parents, poured my heart into it. Added a kids' reading nook for Liam, a chalkboard wall for customers. One day, a regular left a note. Strongest mom in town. I framed it behind the counter. Damn right I was. A year later, life was ours. Liam turned 4. All curiosity and sunshine, planting sunflowers in our backyard and checking them every morning, barefoot and grinning. Look, Mommy. They're growing. They sure are, I said, ruffling his curls, my heart full. The coffee shop thrived, a warm, buzzing haven. I'd modernized it with my parents' blessing, keeping the soul intact. Customers came for the coffee but stayed for the vibe, kids laughing in the nook, notes of encouragement on the chalkboard. It wasn't just a business. It was my redemption. Then Eric showed up. It was a crisp fall evening, just after closing. I was locking the shop when his voice cut through the quiet. Claire. I turned. He stood under the streetlight, thinner, unshaven, his coat worn and his shoulders slumped. The confident man I'd married was gone, replaced by someone hollowed out by his own choices. I've got nothing left, he said, his voice low. Lost my job. My parents are broke. Everyone's gone. I thought maybe. I stepped outside, the door half closed between us. Maybe what, Eric? That I'd bail you out? After you and Sylvia gutted me? I'm sorry, he whispered, his eyes pleading. I messed up. I know that now. I stared at him, the memories flashing like lightning, Sylvia's cruelty, the emails, the months I'd doubted my worth. You're sorry because you're alone, I said, my voice steady. Not because you hurt me. That chapter's closed. I'm not your lifeline anymore. He swallowed hard, guilt carving lines into his face. Claire, please. No, I said, cutting him off. Go figure it out. I did. I turned, locked the shop, and walked away. Liam ran up, grabbing my hand. Home, Mommy? Yeah, buddy, I said, smiling down at him. Let's go. The past was a shadow I'd outrun. Ahead was light, possibility, peace, us. Hey, if Claire's fight for freedom got you hooked, stick around, hit that subscribe button. More stories of grit, twists, and triumph are coming your way. You won't want to miss what's next.